Hey, so how long has James Franklin been the guy?
It feels like he's been the guy in Virginia Tech's mind for a couple weeks now. I think we all kind of got a chuckle out of the ESPN report on game day on Saturday where they're like, oh, he's in the early talks with Virginia Tech. It's like early talks. They've been talking for weeks. I don't know how quickly he became or Virginia Tech became top in his mind, but I feel like right from the start, as soon as he became available, Virginia Tech went after him pretty hard. They made a pretty solid pitch. They met all of his recommendations, suggestions, demands, whatever however you want
Yeah.
to phrase them, salary wise, NIL wise, and stuff like that. I think as soon as he became available, Virginia Tech zeroed in very quickly and made a strong effort to try to get him.
Was the wait more of him waiting on other possible jobs to open just to see what the landscape was going to look like, gauge interest in some of these other openings, wait on Florida State? Was that part of this with James Franklin? And then finally he'd realized, hey, this may be the best opportunity I'm going to get. I'm going to take it. And did Virginia Tech force the issue a little bit with him not to sit and wait around on his decision?
Well, I'm sure Virginia Tech wanted to get this done by Halloween if they could have. But I mean, think if you're in Franklin's position and you have just been fired, I've been laid off before. I don't think you necessarily want to make a rash decision jumping right back into it. So maybe he just wanted to sit back, see the lay of the land. His agent is Jimmy Sexton. That's the guy who's going to want to leverage his situation for everything that's worth. I wonder if they had a plan to, hey, see what else comes available. Even if he still did like Virginia Tech, seeing what else is available could help you in a contract negotiation too. So without jumping into his mind, it's tough for me to tell. But getting this done, I mean, they got it done November 17th yesterday. That's still extremely early in a coaching hiring process. Typically, you'll see all these hires after Thanksgiving. And,
Yep.
the Hokies really got to jump on this whole thing, being the first team to get off the board here.
Eddie, how much does the offset language play a factor here from the buyout at Penn State to what he will be paid here?
I don't think it factors in too much. There's some reporting from the Penn State side. I saw that they had negotiated that down to $9 million. So I think that was one hurdle they had to clear in this whole thing was getting that settled. So I don't know how that affects what his salary is now or what the offset is here. I think that might just be what the number is that he's getting from Penn State, regardless of what he's now getting from Virginia Tech.
The week James Franklin got fired at Penn State, he went on ESPN College Game Day and said, I'm trying to win a national title. That's always been the goal. That remains the goal. And I'm going to go somewhere that's going to compete for a national title. So I guess my question is, where is the big money at Virginia Tech? Is that big money aligned behind whatever James Franklin's vision is for how this is going to look from an NIL standpoint, where Virginia Tech can pretty quickly compete for an ACC championship, which in turn could get them competing for a national championship?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was a big part of his negotiations was what kind of NIL pack was going to be behind it. And I think with a name like this, it's going to get Virginia Tech donors to open up their checkbooks in a way that they haven't before. And I think we'll see that here with the kind of money that's going to be coming at this thing. But the program is already getting a $230 million cash infusion from the university side. It has been something that was in the works even before James Franklin became available. So it seems like the Hokies are getting serious about competing, in the modern college football era where you need to have some money behind what you're doing with the stuff. And in terms of competing within the ACC, I mean, look at the top of the ACC right now. It's not Clemson and Florida State and Miami. It's Georgia Tech, Virginia, Pitt, and SMU. These aren't the titans of the sport. They're having great seasons, don't get me wrong. But it doesn't feel like it's just insurmountable. Like you have to, when he was at Penn State, you had to beat Ohio State and Michigan to get to the top of the mountain in the Big Ten. You don't have to do that in the ACC. So yeah, I think there's a chance that he could get this thing rolling pretty quickly and get up there, have Virginia Tech competing in no time.
Andy, what's the biggest hurdle that Franklin faces at Virginia Tech? Hey, if you like the channel, become a season ticket holder for Hot Mike by clicking the subscribe button below and join the conversation in the comments section. Agree, disagree, we'll join you there in the chat. Now back to Hot Mike.
I think there's a roster rebuild that needs to take place. This is a 3-7 team this year.
Yeah.
And they're probably looking at 3-9. They've got Miami and Virginia coming up. They're going to be significant underdogs in both those games. you don't just patch it up with a few recruits in the 2026 class and be on your way. You're going to have to hit the transfer portal hard. And maybe not James Franklin's forte, the transfer portal. You look at how he's done at Penn State. That's not really how they operated there too much with things. So I'm very curious in who he brings in immediately, how they patch up the holes on this roster. Again, I think there's going to be an NIL focus behind that, allow them to do that, but they're going to have to do a lot of work for this roster. I mean, it's going to have to be a 40, 50 person thing when you count all the recruits coming in and the transfers to rebuild this thing.
How are Virginia Tech boosters and the money involved here? How are they when it comes to patience? Because it's not like the old days where, hey, a coach is going to get 3 to 4 years and they got to get their roster in, and maybe by year 2 or 3 they're improving. In the NIL transfer portal era, you can turn things over, as you mentioned, Andy, pretty quickly. So is that going to shorten the patience with Virginia Tech boosters and fans more, given the era we're in?
I'm sure it will. We've never seen this kind of investment from Virginia Tech boosters before. I mean, they were a patient lot with Frank Beamer. Frank Beamer, it took 6 years before he even got that going. And now that was a completely different era of college football back in the 90s back then. But, they saw that patience paid off eventually. They got a Hall of Fame coach who did things that never had happened at this school. So I think it's sort of ingrained in the culture of Virginia Tech that, wait and see this whole thing. But the last decade and a half has really sort of beaten down these fans. And I think the excitement surrounding Franklin, his history, the pedigree he comes in here as a head coach, the kind of money that's now going to be invested, I think that's going to ramp up the pressure a little bit. But that's not the worst thing, because I feel like without that pressure, this program sort of stagnated for a while.
Speaking of Frank Beamer, how much interest was there in Shane Beamer?
It's an interesting relationship, I think. I think there's a segment of fans who very much like Shane Beamer and want him to come back. And I think there's a segment of fans who, for some reason, don't. I don't know how to explain that. He was here as an assistant coach. He was a likable guy then. I think some people kind of look at him as like, not as good as his dad or something like that. Honestly, I think the bigger hurdle in Shane coming back would be from his side. He's always said, in Blacksburg, there's one coach Beamer, and it's his dad. And I think he understands that. He's been very intentional about his career, about, getting out of Blacksburg, making a way for himself. He has a program in South Carolina, and obviously it's been a rough year this year, but he's had some success in the past. So I think his preference the whole time was to stick at North Carolina, do his own thing down there, have sort of his own city where he's the guy, and not a place like Blacksburg where, he's always the second Beamer when he's here. So, it didn't go down that route, and I'm not saying it never will in the future, but I think, the dynamic of this particular coaching search, I just never bought it as a real possibility here.
Did they zero in on any other particular coach, Andy?
I mean, it turned to Franklin pretty quickly. I mean, when Brent Pry got fired in early September, James Franklin was the head coach of the number 2 team in the country. Coming off a season when they were 2 minutes from playing the national championship, tied at the end of that college football playoff semifinal. I mean, it would have been ridiculous to even consider him as a head coaching candidate. So when he comes open, I think that the focus just completely shifted directly to him. It's like, well, this is the top target, and we'll deal with the other guys if they say no. I think Bob Chesney was probably a serious candidate in this whole thing if Franklin didn't work out. But I don't know if it ever really got down the line that far. I think they're very targeted with Franklin from the beginning that he became available, and they kept pushing and pushing and finally got it done.
Any real another program that Virginia Tech felt like was the real threat to take Franklin?
That's hard to say. I mean, every weekend it felt like a job came open.
For sure,
everybody would say like, well, that's the one. That's the one that will be, Auburn will be the one. Florida will be the one. LSU. And I don't know. It never felt like there was a lot of momentum from those schools in terms of showing an outward interest in him. I guess Arkansas maybe a little bit, but it was perhaps mixed signals there. And, if you're comparing Arkansas and Virginia Tech, it's maybe an eye of the beholder thing. Like, do you want to be seventh fiddle in the SEC, being generous, or do you want to be one of the top brands in the ACC that's sort of been down on its luck lately? So, and again, you look at Franklin's history. He's recruited the Mid-Atlantic his entire life. He coached at Maryland. He's from Pennsylvania. That's part of Virginia Tech's recruiting territory too. Just so many things made sense about fit with Virginia Tech that I think when he got to the end of it and the jobs available and which one worked best for him, this one seemed to fit the best.
Can he be around the program as soon as he's hired, or what's the lay of the land?
So. I think so. I'm sure you have to designate certain coaches that can be on the road recruiting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to hit the ground running. And, it's a 2-week sprint here to signing day. I think a lot of these guys that have, Penn State had a lot of decommitments after he was fired. I think there are a lot of guys in this signing class that have sort of been waiting to see where he ended up. And boom, all of a sudden, Virginia Tech has a home football weekend. One more this weekend against Miami, which, the result on the field might not go great, but I don't think that matters right now. I think what matters is what you can show off to the school. Maybe James Franklin is showing guys around and still getting the lay of the land while he's, that's where the weight room is. I didn't realize where that was, but they're learning this thing together. I think this is a real opportunity here, recruiting-wise, that he can make an impact here at the end of the year.
What's their schedule like coming up next year? Right out of the chute. Do we know?
I think they open with VMI. Something's going to have to change because the ACC went to a 9-game schedule.
Okay.
So they're going to have to drop one of their non-conference games. I think it's going to be JMU, which is unfortunate because I think JMU would be a really interesting, fun game to watch.
Yeah.
They play at Maryland,
okay,
which will be an interesting one, and tons of storylines there. James Franklin was the coach of waiting at one point there under Ralph Friedgen. Never came to be. He ended up going to Vanderbilt. Right now, the ACC schedule, they go to Clemson, they go to Miami. There's some question about, with the ACC changing its schedule, do they completely tear up the previous format and do something new, or they just tack on a game? So, I'm kind of refraining from talking too much about next year until I know exactly what they're going to do on that.
I just started looking ahead.
They got the unfortunate imbalance, 5 road games, 4 home games with that 9-game next year. They're at Boston College, at Cal, at Clemson, at Miami with 4 ACC home games. And then, of course, the non-conference also.
So they're done with the Vandy stretch.
Well, it's going to flip. One year you get the 5. With the non-conference, you're going to get 5 away and then 4 away, depending on the season. So it'll just alternate each year.
Andy, good perspective, man. We appreciate the insight.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me.
There is Tech Sideline is where you can find his great work. Albany's approved.
Brian Albany special.
That's right, man.
It's his favorite.
It's great. Good hire. Solid. And there was something about fit on just that area to me that fits Franklin. Like some of the other jobs that would pop. Like, does he really fit Florida? No. Does he fit? No, it doesn't fit LSU. Virginia Tech. I realize that it's not the same caliber of job, but it was always East Coast fits James Franklin, right?
Yeah, think about the players that he recruited from that DMV Tidewater area. Tyler Warren, Chop Robinson, Christian Hackenberg, I think is from the state of Virginia also.
Yep.
It's the perfect fit. If Brian Kelly was the worst possible fit culturally, I think James Franklin from Eastern PA, close to Philly, and has recruited at Maryland and the DMV area, the Tidewater area, so well throughout his career. Makes perfect sense for Virginia Tech. This is a good hire. This is a good landing spot for James Franklin, too.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to OutKick Hot Mic.
Daily content and more at OutKick Hot Mic on YouTube.